Welcome to Ready for Real Estate. I'm Lauren. Whether you're renting your first apartment, buying a family home, or building an investment portfolio, this show's about the strategy and the nuts and bolts of the industry. We believe real estate is the most versatile tool for building wealth, but you have to know how to use it. We're here to help you navigate the shifts so that when opportunity knocks, you'll be ready. Let's get into it.
What's going on, everyone? It's Matt Grace with your Ready for Real Estate podcast today. I'm here with our co-host, Lauren, and we're here with some special guests today, all about property management. And so that's really a key, and that's their name, KeyRenter, about being ready for and available for property management. So you could be building, you could be downsizing, you could be a reluctant, and that's where I want to hear from these guys. What do you do with those reluctant landlords where you got to take over for your mom or a parent or grandparent, someone that actually needs help and you just can't help them? So where do you go? So it's not really a duty, but it's a mindset. It's a readiness. And that's what it's all about. So I talk about this all the time. The way this podcast started was driving down the street, saw a house for sale. It was one of my wife's favorite houses. And she's like, can we look at it? And I said, are we ready? And the light bulb went off. I'm like, how many other people are like that? And so that's where this podcast is drawn to, is making sure people are ready and we give the resources and the conversations to people to get them ready, get them to be successful, and have some sort of landing pad for them to come back and find the right, correct way. And so I want to introduce right now our co-host, Lauren. Lauren, how are you?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good. How's the market today?
It's picking up. It is picking up for sure. Some things are starting to hit the market in abundance, getting ready for the spring market. Buyers are coming out in droves. It's not quite as busy as we were expecting. I have a feeling people are waiting for rates to drop a little bit more, but we could just be looking at the market shifting back a little bit, and that insanity that we expect through May could go into June. So we're keeping our eyes open and plugging along, and we're keeping on.
Great. So these are your friends with us today, correct? You want to introduce them?
Yeah, sure. So we have Matt and Brett with us from KeyRenter. They are both owner-operators of the businesses. And we have Mat Chapman, who handles Bergen County up in northern New Jersey. And we have Brett Baker, who handles Philly. He's our Philly guy. So I had the pleasure of meeting both Matt and Brett, and they explained their business to, they explained KeyRenter and how they help support landlords. And just like Matt said at the start, for some of our more reluctant landlords, maybe you're selling a house, maybe you inherited mom's house and you want to rent it out. These guys are really who you want to talk to. That's their specialty. So I want to kick it over to Matt and Brett and say hi and welcome. And if you guys want to fill us in and tell me exactly which parts I got wrong from your intro. Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Lauren.
Welcome.
Really nice kickoff there. I thought that was nice. It's funny. I'm just going to add to your reluctant story. I actually just had a discovery call with a potential KeyRenter client just before I got on today with you guys. And they were a brother, sister, and they just inherited their family house, right? They just inherited it because mom and dad had just passed away, which was kind of sad. They've been through probate and everything, and they're now ready to move forward with using the potential property as an investment. And it's basically a single family property, and it has a house on it. It's a big lot, and there's a 2-bedroom apartment above the garage. And they came to me because they want to rent out the 2-bedroom apartment above the garage on a single family property. If you may have heard me say that, which is completely illegal here in New Jersey. And so it started off as a really fun conversation. Like I might be able to help them with their new investment property, which turned into quickly telling them, unfortunately, I can't take you on board because you're legally not compliant with state rules and regulations. And it was kind of upsetting to them. They said, well, mom and dad have been doing this for 30 years. Well, they did it wrong for 30 years. And, they opened themselves up to a lot of liability and insurance issues and things like that. But I'm still meeting them next Wednesday because they still are a little confused about the situation and how it would work for them. And I'm going to go over there and help them come up with a plan that maybe they might be able to turn it into an investment property, whether that's trying to petition us, the town to turn it into a multifamily or whatever it might be. We're going to try and help them. Not sure I'm going to get far with it, but we'll see what happens. But that's one quick story for you.
Love it. And that's such a I'm so glad that you brought that up, Matt, because that's challenging. Like that's one of the challenging bits. And honestly, it's why you guys are in business, why I'm in business, because this is you only know what you know. If mom and dad didn't know that that's what they needed to do and their kids did the right thing to reach out to you guys, infinitely, you guys are there. Matt and Brett, you guys are there. You know the ins, the outs. You can tell them what they need to do and help them if that's the route that they do want to go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. So, hey everybody, Brett here. I do Philly, and Philly is notorious for everything that Matt just talked about. It's really crazy sometimes when you go into, a nicer, the property looks nice in the pictures, then you go inside and you're like, the most confusing things are inside. Like it makes zero sense at all. And then you find out, oh, it's actually registered as a single family. And then, it's so easy to look up in Philly at least, and there's all these resources that you can find out there to do a quick search. You're like, oh, this is a single family set up as a duplex. Looks like a really good option, but it actually is just, it's going to be either a nightmare to actually get the city to approve it, or B, most likely it's going to go into foreclosure. And then, people are going to try to buy it for cheap and then, kind of rehab it, or it's just going to sit on the market for, you know, 6 months and no one's going to even do anything. And then I've seen properties on the market for like 400 or 500 days and they still have it listed for some reason, which is just, if you don't do it right the first time, you're even further behind than if you just make a mistake.
So that's a
Exactly.
great point. So Brett, when should people engage you guys, the property manager? Should it be like a way before, like, hey, I'm thinking of this? That during it? Well, during it, it's no,
Yeah, I would say the earliest to reach out is like if you're in the process of buying your first property, I would say the earliest to reach out makes sense once you connect yourself with a realtor and you actually start to go see some properties a little bit.
Mhm.
Because then you actually like going and seeing the properties in person actually gives you 10 times the amount of knowledge that you can just looking online. So once you kind of get there and, you talk to them and then, go meet with a few realtors, kind of listen to what they say, and then really, yeah, just go through the process. And then once you kind of get a little bit of an understanding on it, then reach out to someone like us, even before you make an offer. And, we'll be there to kind of help back check and make sure that your realtor is saying what they're doing. Because, sometimes realtors, especially in a tough market, they're going to try to push sales onto certain people. And, having us here as we're here to really help out people. And our whole goal is to help investors grow their real estate portfolios so that, we can manage more properties for you, you can make more money, and we all win together. So it makes no sense for us to do that.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. I'll say like Brett just took the investor route there, which was definitely a big side of our business. But another side of our business that's huge is the people that are already investors, right? They already have properties, they're already leased, and their pain points are really starting to, you know, stab them in the back. They're starting to make mistakes with their leases, with not putting in all the facts of how they want that property run, and it's biting them in the butt later. Or they're taking a lot of communication from their tenant that they're not necessarily enjoying, or it's taking more of their time away for their family lives or their work lives. And then, other things are like, a lot of problems come with properties, right? It's not like you buy a property and that property is going to be the same as the day you bought it. It ages just like we all do, right? And small little problems turn into big problems quick. A lot of tenants may not want to notify their owners that there are small issues because they think that they may have contributed to it, so they'll let it go and it'll become a bigger thing. So a lot of times maintenance issues or not handling the maintenance issues quickly come around quickly. And so whenever one of these pain points come to an owner, they should call us straight away because we're going to run it professionally and we're going to make it so much better for their lives to be able to do things like invest more in more properties, go on vacations without the stress, things like that. So realistically, if you're an investor and you're investing in real estate, whether you're new or you're seasoned, we should be a call.
Absolutely. And I want to build on what you just said, Matt. And there is actually, at least in leases that I write, there is a duty actually for the tenant to raise those concerns to the landlord. Unfortunately, if the tenant is aware of a leak and they don't say anything to the landlord and it escalates, the tenant could be liable for repairs because they didn't call it out in a timely fashion. So it's a protection for tenants, for landlords. And honestly, having a second set of eyes on the property is a huge help. It's such a huge help.
Yeah, not only are we a second set of eyes, but we also do like 6 monthly inspections, which not many people do, right? We're there every 6 months and we do a proper inspection with a written report with photo evidence and video evidence of the property to make sure that they're sticking to the lease requirements, to make sure the property's being well maintained. Not many people do that because a lot can happen in 12 months. So you really should be in there every 6 months. So that's something that we do.
That's
that-
awesome.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off that, that preventative maintenance, it'll save you so much in the long run, right?
Yeah.
A quick $100 fix today could be $3,000. And that happens more times than not. So yeah, being on top of that, and then also working with owners who understand that it is someone's home and it is an investment, and sometimes you have to put money into it. So working with good owners who are smart like that really create a lot of win-wins for everybody.
So to kind of sell the landlord on the service that you guys provide, because I know that can be a pain point. Sometimes the landlords will come in like, why am I paying somebody to do something I could do? And that whole argument, in addition to being able to leverage that time and that they get back from working with you guys to put back into the properties. But what does it look like for a landlord or an investor to work with you guys? What does that look like cost-wise, process?
One thing owners don't really ever think about is what is their time worth, right? What is their time worth? Put a dollar value on your time. And when you say that to an owner, especially even a seasoned owner who's been doing it for years, right? They actually don't know the answer to that. They get very stumbled and they don't really get what I'm even saying. What do you mean? What is my time worth? Okay, if you were at your job, what would you expect as an hourly rate to work? And it's actually really funny. A lot of owners will say some really low rates, which is funny. And let's just say one owner recently I spoke to said, well, I wouldn't leave the door for less than $50. That sounds really low to me, right? But he said $50. So I said, great. That's great. All right. Now let's talk about how many hours you've actually maybe spent on this property this month. Can you try and quantify that? And he said, well, I fixed this thing once and I went over and I did this and, I spent a few hours on the phone talking to them about some things and he equated to about 5 or 10 hours, right? So I said, oh, this month I may have spent 5 to 10 hours. I said, okay, well, times that by $50. And he said, okay, yeah. I said, well, your rental is worth $2,700 a month. It's actually cheaper to employ me than to have you go over there and do it. And he was just mind blown by that whole concept. It really doesn't cost that much. Now, I can't speak for Brett's pricing because we're all a little bit different in how we price our business. But if you're a one-time investor, it's just 9% of monthly rent where we are in New Jersey, right? And if you're a small investor, you maybe have 3 or more properties, we can actually discount that percentage a little bit as well for that. But if you think about a $2,000 rental, a $3,000 rental, $4,000, whatever it might be, by 9%, it's really not that huge a deal to keep you legally compliant, to take away all of your stress, work with the realtors to help you find tenants, screen them correctly, have online portals that make it easy for the tenants to pay rent, to make maintenance requests, all these sorts of things. We simplify everything for the tenant and for the owner, and they can go back and spend those 5-10 hours wherever they want on anything, whether it's with their children, whether it's going and spending more time at work and making more money, or whether it's identifying, like say with you, Lauren, the next investment property, right? They have time for that. And that's what we really do. And it's really not that expensive. But I don't know. What do you think, Brad?
I mean, you can obviously tell that Matt and I both work for the same franchise because the first words out of his mouth was like, dang it, I was going to say that. But
Yeah.
It was almost word for word exactly what I said. I had a conversation with someone at a meeting earlier, and I I said the same thing to him. He had like this look on his face. I was like, okay, like, hey, we're going to go move some furniture on Saturday and I'll pay you $40 for 5 hours. And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? It's like, once you quantify it for someone and really like put it in front of their face, that's when it really starts to stick. And then also the aspect of peace of mind is great as well. Like everything that Matt said, I fully believe. But then, also sometimes things come up during the middle of the workday, or you might have to take a day off of work to go meet a plumber or something like that, because that's the only time they can come and the tenants can't be there, and you can't hire someone random that you don't trust to do that. So now you're not only wasting your time, but you're also wasting your hard fought vacation hours that you work for so dearly. And that's just, again, it all starts to pile up more and more and more. And also working with qualified vendors who are insured, who aren't the big companies that, you Google, HVAC person, you're going to get the top 3 people who spend the most amount of money in advertising dollars. It doesn't mean that they're the best. Most of the time they're not. Most of the time it was a guy who built a company up, and now you just get a bunch of, plug and play guys that, they do a good job. Yeah, but they're going to charge you 50%, 50% or more, where working with us, we don't, at least I don't charge extra for maintenance. That's part of the management fee. So, you get good people who are looking to, keep busy with their business, take care of their families, and aren't going to try to, steal, take as much money away from you as possible. So that's an extra cost savings as well, because, I don't think anyone in here is, trying to replace electrical equipment or plumbing, because that's a nightmare, and just a lot of risk there too. I've gotten zapped a few times doing that, being stupid, and I'm like, never again.
There,
So
it is fun.
I think it's like this, guys. Like, I think in real estate, we talk about mindset a lot, right? We talk about mindset in real estate, whether it's in selling real estate or whether it's managing real estate. Mindset is a huge thing, right? And the investor, whether it's 1 property or 10 properties, their mindset has to be set at, I'm running this investment as a business kind of style, rather than as my everyday, like a hobby sort of thing. It's not a hobby. It's an investment property that you should be running efficiently, and you should be running it at a profit. And you should be also providing a beautiful home for the tenants so that they stay longer in that property. They want to live in your property, right? And so you don't have a day of vacancy, right? That's what it's all about. It's mindset, and being in that investor mindset instead of a hobby or a grinded out type of mindset. Like, I'm going to invest and I'm going to grind it out and do it all myself.
yeah, because I mean, at that point, it's not an investment. It's a second job. Like, let's just call it what it is.
It
That's
is
what it is.
100%.
So yeah, and then the last point I'll make about this is working with a good property manager is going to give you access to a lot of other people that you typically normally wouldn't. Like, I know I have about 3 or 4 different investor groups that I meet with, several times a month, and they have, different types of lenders, different strategies that you'd never think of. And having access to those people and growing your network it's unmeasurable, to be honest. Plus, just from a cost benefit analysis, keeping track of your maintenance, having, monthly income statements, and, tax season just came and went, and how many people were scrambling at the last second to fill out all their tax sheets with all their rent and going back through all these statements to try to collect everything. And that's a nightmare. So we handle all that process for you. So, it's nice and easy. It's transparent. And in the long term, if you stick with a good property manager, you're actually going to save a lot of money, and not only your time.
Absolutely. And it's so amazingly invaluable, like you said, to have access to your guys' network. Speaking for myself, I know finding reliable workers in Philly is tough. Even just a handyman contractor coming out to take care of something little, it can take weeks to get somebody. Even getting a call back is an uphill battle. So being able to just pick up the phone, hey Brett, this is what's going on, you got this, right, is gold to me. But that's just me. Matt, what do you think?
So what I'm listening in on, you guys offer such a purpose, as in, you ever hear the term swan, sleep well at night? That part of the deal where you take away all the stress. You allow people to either grow their business, like Matt said, run the business correctly, or have more family time, be safer, and actually breathe a little bit and go on that vacation, Brett, like you said. And what you guys have said, I wish more property managers offered what you guys did. My question to you guys offer this whole basket full of services. Is there stuff like you can like a la carte where you're just collecting, or is it just maintenance, or even a sliding scale to make the homeowner more visible and invisible, where they just see you all the time? Do you guys provide that too, or because some people want to be more hands-on, but they don't have the hours invested in that. So like, hey, if Matt and Brett could handle just the maintenance requests, then I could handle the tenant screening and because I want to know who's in my property. So that's my question.
You go, Brett.
I actually just ran into that issue. I was talking with an agent, and the agent, he wanted to do the leasing.
Mhm.
He said the owners were fine collecting their own rent, and he wanted me to do the management side. And it's too fragmented to be successful,
Mhm.
right? Like, it's easier for one person to do a whole full service management than to break it all into pieces, because it's too many people trying to like, and the communication lines get blurry, and then, someone misses something, and then someone gets blamed, and then, everyone starts pointing fingers. It's easier to just have one person or, one company run the whole thing together, because, like I said earlier, like, collecting, getting a check every month is not any work at all, right? You just maybe you have to text the tenant, hey, you're going to be late tomorrow. It's not a lot of work, but we're not just check collectors. We're not just babysitters. We are a full service company meant to take care of a really valuable asset for you.
Mhm.
And if we can't come to an understanding that we need to have some congruency between the owner and us, then unfortunately, that might be a client that we can't work with.
Great answer.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Brett's fully spot on with all of that. Yeah, so we do get a lot of calls for this, right? This a la carte type sort of thing. And I actually said no to an investor on Monday for nine single family properties that I could have managed for him, but he wanted two things. He wanted to handle all of the maintenance. He didn't want us to do any of that, and he wanted final say on every tenant that came in, which was pretty big red flag for me, right? That final the maintenance thing, sure, but the final say was a huge red flag. He was not willing to sort of let go and have that mindset of the investor, right? He still wanted that. And it also, like, if you think about fair housing laws and HUD and all these different things, he's basically saying, I want to kind of pick and choose what I want here, which is not what we do at KeyRenter, right? That's just not the way. And so I had to, unfortunately let him go. But like even the maintenance side, if you think about it, right? How are we able to legally enforce the lease or enforce our tenants into what the lease requires them to do, or make them pay rent on time and things, when you're relying on your owner to go and fix something that they've asked for many times? So it says, well, I told you and he told me, and all these things happen. The first thing that ends up happening is, well, something happens wrong. The tenant gets upset. They don't pay rent because they don't want to pay rent until what their issue is fixed. Until that's fixed, they're not paying rent. So how are we able to enforce anything without the rent or without the maintenance being done? It's just too confusing. So exactly what Brett said. It's just we're a full service white glove type of business. Now we could do a la carte. We just don't believe in that model. We believe in the full service model.
And also, like, the final point is like the owners who want to be more involved. There's no problem with us, hey, pick up the phone, say, hey, we're sending someone out there, just so like, just be prepared for it. And we have different levels and systems built into this. But yeah, I mean, it's not like you're just going to see a bill for $1,000 one month out of nowhere, and then you're going to get angry. We have a constant flow of communication, and we have constant updates. And if you need to sit down and talk about something, we have different thresholds for things. So if something costs more than what the standard threshold is, we're going to give you a call. We're going to let you know, and we're going to kind of work this thing out. It's not, we're not telling you what we're going to do. We're working with you through the terms that we agreed on.
Yeah, it's exactly right. The terms we agreed on when we first meet with you and we first get our property management agreement ready with you, it's set on basically conversations we've had leading up to that, and the requirements that the owner needs and wants to set that's legally allowed. Right? Like we can set that together And then once that's set in place, it should all be smooth from there, right? The communication flows, like Brett said.
That's great answers. And
That's
that's how
awesome.
I would work with it with that. I'd rather give you everything, and then if the building's burning, then you contact me. But I'll sit back, collect the check, and we'll talk when there's issues there. And believe me, I don't care who is in there. I'll tell you this story, and this is one of the other reasons that I started Ready for Real Estate. I was helping a client down in the hood in Philly, down at Tioga Station, Brett, if you're familiar with Tioga in Kensington.
Mm.
And he,
What a lovely area.
see,
My property's right around the corner. I know it
right?
well.
It was right on the corner. I was helping him, and we needed to help him get rented. This guy was walking up the street saying, "Hey, you have a room for rent?" He goes, "Yeah, it's yours." Like, then he turns to me and be like, "All right, you're in charge of them." I'm like, it was a nightmare, right? A nightmare. So, and I'm like, it can't ever happen like this again. So, yeah, so that's where, great, love to do that. Turn right around, meet my friend Brett or Matt, and they'll take it from here. And that's key. Having you guys first in the Rolodex does not keep you. I always felt unsafe down there. We have since sold the building, and the client's no longer a client because he's out of real estate. But yeah, that was a crazy introduction there. But I'm so glad that you guys have that whole system. And how long have you been in the business? Can I ask you that, both of you guys?
Yeah, that's kind of a trick question, to be honest.
Or
I actually know Brett's answer, and I know my answer as well. So Brett and I, we started at the same time. Actually, we started I'll say with KeyRenter, we started at the same time with KeyRenter, which was about mid last year. We started moving forward with KeyRenter. I won't speak for Brett. I'll let him speak for himself. But I've been an investor in real estate since I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
I'm from Australia. If you haven't worked it out from the accent, everyone, but that's where it is. It's an Australian accent. And I've been investing in real estate in Australia since I was 19. I actually never self-managed. I always had a property manager myself.
Mhm.
So I've kind of been in that space for a long time, knowing how a property should be managed by a company, investing myself in different properties. I've fixed and flipped properties and things like that. And then when I moved to America about 11 years ago, I went straight into real estate and I was selling real estate. What I quickly realized was I was kind of managing a little bit, like on the side, helping investors, with my time, for free almost, doing sort of property management activities for many years and not being, compensated for it, just being helpful. Because as a realtor, and you guys might connect with this, is that you want to be as helpful to your clients as possible. You also want to make sure that at some point, if they do sell that property, that you're going to be there to do that with them, and maybe new tenants bring them in, and you want to be there for them as a real estate person, right? So you kind of end up getting pulled into doing a lot of these activities, which actually kind of opens you up legally to litigation and different things
Yes,
that you don't really
absolutely.
realize. But all the realtors do it. And so I really quickly realized that I wanted to get into this space to have what I had in Australia at the level of things that I was getting. And in New Jersey here, it really wasn't a thing. It's a thing, but not to the level that we do it at KeyRenter. And so that's what made me get into that space, leave real estate sales and go into the management side. So officially with KeyRenter, you could say since mid last year to now, but I feel like I've been doing this sort of thing since I was 19. And I know Brett's got the same answer, so I'll let him answer.
Yeah. So I bought my first real estate property about 2 months before everything shut down during the pandemic. So I went from a nice big home with my family to a small little Philly apartment that I lived in with a roommate. So that was bad timing on that, but good timing for other things. I got that. I was doing the house hacking method that everyone talks about nowadays. And then a couple years later, found another property that I liked, did a pretty extensive renovation on it. And I like everything about real estate. It appeals to my architectural background with design. Obviously, I like numbers. Numbers are very interesting. Just for fun, I run like rental comps and, run like the paper napkin math for, is this going to be a good investment or not? So I always wanted to make real estate or get into real estate as a full-time job. And it just kind of hit me at the right time because I was like, hey, I've been self-managing my own properties for the past well, it's going on 6 years now. So like I've done it all. Like I've got the calls at, 10 o'clock at night, like, hey, tenant did something stupid and you have to drive over there. And then you realize, oh, I didn't bring the right tools and you have to drive back. And I was like, I'm not getting paid for driving back and forth to this property. Like I should get paid for that, right? Dealing with all this nonsense. And I really just saw the value because I saw what real estate did for me and how it changed my life. And I was like, I can be there to help other people out. I mean, it's really building those win-win scenarios is just it's one of the best feelings in the world.
That's great. For me, I've been doing this family wise since like as a little kid. So helping ripping out basements and putting bars in and even buying houses in my late teens with my mom, my brothers, and doing duplexes. And I got my real estate license when it froze over. I was in commercial lending. And like Matt, you're right on. You could be, yeah, it doesn't matter where you're at in a job or at a location. It's just all your experience built up. And so, yeah, you could be key renter since it opened, but you have such a wealth of knowledge and people would know that right off the bat. So that's a great answer to that. And I agree with you, Brett. It's just having the passion and drawing up rent numbers. And now with AI, I would waste more time doing scenarios on that than anything else. But I love it. So and this is the reason for this. You'll hear me say this probably a few times in this. We all learn together, right? Are we giving away free information? Yes. But are we learning together and creating a service? Yes. So we're not asking you to do anything like for the liability wise, like Lauren's not going to say, rob your grandmother and take that and put it down. And she won't know anything about it. Not like you had anything close to that, but we all learn together and we're developing this community where people can trust and grow and learn together. So I really appreciate you guys' answers on that stuff. That's it.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Is we're trying to build a community of people who do this, who love this, and it's whether you're in it full time or in it part time. I've always looked at being a landlord as my part time job. So sometimes it pays and sometimes it doesn't. And Brett, to your point, like my project management background rears its ugly heads. I watch hours like a hawk. I watch my own hours. I watch my own mileage and the amount of time spent back and forth. Guess I'm going to be giving you a call a little later this week, Brett. So now to take on a client to what are some of the other services that you provide? I know this really blew me away in particular. Tell us a little bit about how you guys help landlords find tenants and how you help them screen tenants.
You want to take this, Matt?
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So it's a little bit different for every KeyRenter branch. Everyone sort of does things a little bit different. I've said that before. And every market is different, right? Like every market in real estate is a little different. Up here in North New Jersey, realtors actually do a lot of the leasing activities, right? They want to be involved. They want to lease the property. They want to market it and they want to get it out there. So I like to partner with realtors a lot, as much as I can. I want to partner with a realtor to help them get more exposure for the property, get it rented quicker, and help my realtors make commission as well. Like that's kind of something that really interests me is partnering with realtors. Now, it doesn't happen every time. I had a property recently where the owners did not want any realtors involved whatsoever. So we offer leasing services at KeyRenter as well. So I did that one on my own. But to be honest, I love bringing in the realtor as well and working with them. It's a good partnership. It's good synergy, and we can double market it, right? So that's awesome. So that's one way we can look at leasing. When it comes to the screening, every real estate company I think has a different way they want to do it. Some are just like, give me a credit score and fill out this little piece of paper and they'll rent you a property. Some will have NTN or some will use Rent Spree. Like there's all these different things you can use out there. What I love about our KeyRenter model is we go a little bit deeper, right? Because a vacant property is a problem property, right? Or an eviction process is a problem, right? No one wants either of these scenarios. So we really want to screen our tenants better from day one so that when we put the right tenant in, not only are they less likely, if not any, to be an eviction process, we actually have an eviction guarantee within our business that if we have to evict someone that we screened and we brought in, that we will cover the cost of that eviction, right? Which is for our owners, up to a certain amount. Every office is different because lawyer fees and things are different in different spaces. But we basically do that because we believe in our screening process, right? We call it a 21-point screening process. The nuts and bolts to it is we're making sure that their credit score is high enough. Where you talked about AI just before, Matt. AI is like rife in real estate right now, right? I had a property, I had 4 applications, and of those 4 applications, 3 of them used AI to change their pay stubs to increase their earnings so that they look like a better tenant or someone we might want to go with. We have people who actually call the employer. Hey, is John Smith employed by you? Yes. Okay, great. Is John Smith making this? This is the paycheck I have. This is what it is, right? Making sure that everything fits, that AI didn't come in and change these things, right? We call the past references the same thing. Past references are AI generated now. Well, no, we call them, right? Not many like NTN, these companies don't make these calls. We do make these calls. We do make sure that they're real. Everything's real. We even go as deep as scrubbing their social media. Are there any red flags that we see in the social media, right? We really want good tenants. But when we get these tenants, the best part is like we truly celebrate them, right? Because they've really jumped some hoops to get there. We want them to stay in this property as long as we possibly can. We've secured someone amazing. Let's keep this amazing person. We'll throw like tenant parties, right? We'll give them gifts. We have a gift basket when they move in. And we really want to celebrate that they made it through our strict process. That's kind of what we do. And I don't know. Do you want to add to that, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much described it perfectly. Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other point to add is it's better to let a unit sit vacant for a little bit longer to make sure you get the right tenant than it is to just try to get someone in there and they there's maybe there's a red flag or a couple things that aren't completely making sense. But yeah, I mean, because I mean, in Philly, I've heard that they can stay up to 12 months without paying, and that hurts a lot more than waiting an extra even 2 or 3 months to make sure you get someone who's qualified.
Yeah, or just jumping on the first person because you thought they were really nice, right? You interviewed them, they seemed great, they had a great job, and they seem like the perfect fit, but they may not be. You've got to do your due diligence, right? And they may not be, and that's what Brett's talking about there.
And even to build on that from a compliance perspective and not regulatory, but more from HUD and equal opportunity housing, there are restrictions in place. Like everybody has to go through the same application process. Like we can't pick and choose throughout. And then there are different brokerages have different rules. Like I know my brokerage is very strict. Absolutely no property management. We cannot do it. So when I talk to my clients, I have to be able to draw that line in the sand and let them know, like, listen, I can't do certain things. Yes, I can lease the property, I can bring people in, but I'm not able to make a decision on an application. That's not my place. That's a property manager's place or the landlord's place. So I'm not there are things that you guys can do that I'm not able to do for clients, but having just like you were saying, Matt, like having that partnership in place where I can just hand your card to my client and just here you go. Matt will take care of you. Brett's got you from here. They'll take care of everything. Is really an awesome value add. And it really does protect the landlord. You don't have to worry about somebody coming back claiming discrimination because you took an NTN report from one person and a rent spree from another person. You don't know.
Or some realtor did that application 3 months ago, right? And they're using that one wherever they go, trying to get a property. 3 months is a long time.
It
Right?
is.
You have a new job. Your hours could have changed, like so many things could have happened. It's got to be relevant. It's got to be done for that property, for that person every time, not just bring this piece of paper with you everywhere. It's not a pre-approval for a mortgage. It's an application that it needs to be screened for person, property, sort of thing.
Exactly. And when it comes down to it, it's when those decisions are made, it has to be based on finances. That's it. That's about it. That's the only thing that you can really say no to is if the finances aren't right. And
Yeah,
those
you
are
got to.
great protections for tenants.
Yeah, we like to set up with our owners what is our standard? What is our level? And it can't obviously have HUD got, we're going to follow the right rules. But when it comes to like the financial requirements that they need for this property, for the terms that they're going to have to move in this property, whether they allow pets or not, or, we at KeyRenter don't believe in smoking in the property. So we clearly outline that as well. So there's like a bunch of things that we'll go through with our owners to who is the perfect tenant for this property? How do they fit the criteria that we want for your property? And that's what's set when it comes to the screening of them.
That's
So
great.
it's input one time. Yeah.
Matt and Brett, chime in on this. So I just bought a new investment property, no tenants yet. What are some of the things I need to do first before getting a tenant in there? Coming to you.
Yeah, I mean, first things first is, we need to have a conversation to make sure that we're both mentally in the same place. You can if you just ask a few questions and let people talk, you can understand where they're coming from, and if they work with you, because not every investor is right for property management, or investor is right for you specifically as a property management company. So it's really about finding someone who aligns with what your beliefs, understands the role that we play, and a big thing is trusts us enough to do what we need to do. And we both understand where our roles are and what our roles aren't, and we don't need to infringe on each other. So after we get that understanding, then we'll go and we'll meet you on site with the property, and we'll take a look at it, and we'll look at the conditions, because an extra set of eyes can see different things. Maybe if there's no tenants, then do we just need to clean it up, make it look nice, and then it's market ready, or are there some kind of underlying issues that we really need to take a look at, and then we'll do that full inspection that Matt was talking about. We do it pre-move-in, so we have a pre-move-in inspection, and after that we'll keep talking. We got to make sure that it's compliant, right? You got to have your rental license. We're not messing around with anything like that. We got to make sure it's legally up to date. We got to make sure that we're both protected in this, and then after we make sure that we align on all those things, then we would actually take it over and actually start vetting tenants, and listing the property, advertising it, all of it. But there's several steps beforehand that are absolutely crucial to the success, because if you don't have clearly defined roles, then people are going to misinterpret what you're saying, and then it's going to become a negative situation for everyone involved.
Right. Now, should people form an LLC, or does that matter, or is that really preference?
Personal choice.
Yeah.
That's personal choice.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not mandatory. It's not needed. A lot of investors do like to do that for privacy reasons and business reasons, but it could be in anything. It doesn't need to be an LLC.
Okay.
And there's plenty of other ways to protect yourself from liability. I know that's a big one, is if you put each house in an LLC, it reduces your liability overall. But there's other ways. Matt and I have different networks of people that through insurance and all these other things that can protect you for different ways, if that's really what you're worried about.
Okay. Wow, that's a great answer. So thank you. Yep.
So tell us about which landlords are your guys' clients. Which landlords should be reaching out to you? Is it somebody who just snapped up like a 16-unit building, or some little schlub like me with a duplex here, duplex there, parents' house to rent? Who should be contacting you guys? Who do you like to work with?
It's all of the above that you just said. We want to work with everyone that has investment property and rental properties. But in saying that, we want to work with the right people, right? It's not necessarily the property sometimes, or its location, or any of those sorts of things. It's more, we want to work with owners that want to work with us, right? It's fit. It's the fit of the owner and our company. That's what we're ultimately looking for, is that great fit, that great synergy, where we can work with that owner and we can be like one. We're a partnership, and we understand each other, and we understand how we want the property run and rented. But we also want to make sure that our owners understand they have an asset, an awesome asset. And we're not the type of company that wants to run your asset to the ground. We want to improve your asset. We want to make sure that your asset over time is increasing in value, right? So that there is going to be a time where you're going to sell the property, right? We're not going to manage it forever, but you're going to sell it one day. And when we call our realtors in, like Lauren, right? We call you in and we say, hey, Lauren, Bob's ready to sell his property now. He's moving to Florida. He's going to hang it all up and play golf and go fishing, right? Like, all right, well, guess what, Lauren? We've kept this property in awesome condition the whole time these tenants have been here. It's literally ready to go for you. We might just have a little lick of paint here or there, and you're ready to get that thing staged and get it listed, right? That's the owner we're looking for. We don't want I hate to say it, the slumlord, right? The slumlord's not really a key renter type of owner, right? He's just running it to the ground, and he's just wanting every single dollar he can get at the minute, not thinking about the long game, right? So that's the owners we love. It doesn't matter if it's a condo, it doesn't matter if it's a townhouse, it doesn't matter if it's a building of 6, doesn't matter if it's a single family home. Property location doesn't matter. It's the owner. That's what we're looking for. Right, Brett?
Yeah, no, it's we do residential real estate, right? We don't do industrial parks, we don't do shopping malls or anything like that. We're focused on helping smaller individuals who are starting off in their real estate career or who just want to build portfolios.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I said it right. It's really about the owner, and we're here to help people in the small family and even up to medium multifamily size properties. We're not doing industrial parks. We're not doing shopping malls. We're here to help people start their real estate journey or continue to build wealth through the single family process. Yeah, I mean, the landlords that Matt was talking about, the slumlords, or the people that are going to fight you for the penny pinchers, basically, they're too much of a hassle and they're focused on the wrong thing. Right, they're focusing on what's the old saying? Is it stepping over dollars to pick up pennies? That kind of mindset. That's not someone that you can just sustain a long-term relationship with. You have to understand that nothing is going to go the way you think it's going to go, and you just have to understand that there's going to be problems, like everything in life, and we're here to help and solve those problems for you. So if you can understand that, that's where we'll build that beautiful relationship, and then you can retire in 10 years and just, sit back on the beach and just collect rent.
I mean, that's the goal after all, isn't it?
For most people.
Or the mountains, whichever. We don't judge.
Yeah. So, Brett, how do you know when it's time to stop the DIY and come to you guys? Do you have a certain thing you look for? Or if I'm a landlord and I'm like totally overwhelmed, when do I come to you guys?
Yeah, that's you kind of said it right. It's not necessarily there's like a specific time that you're like, oh, I hit this amount of properties. It's taking too much time because every property is different and the way everyone handles things is different. It's really when it becomes too stressful for you to handle, and whatever that personal level of stress is where you're gonna want to come to us because we're gonna give you that time back. We're gonna give you that peace of mind. And we're going to work with highly skilled professionals to help keep your property in better shape for the long run. A lot of people really make it their second job and really have that burnout, and it always seems to happen like when one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. And when you have like a big important meeting the next morning, that's when the toilet breaks at the property and the tenant's calling you because there's water going everywhere, and now it's just this snowball effect that it always comes with it. Just when there's too many things, people just get overwhelmed and they don't solve it, and it becomes stressful like that. So it's really everyone has a boiling point, and whenever you hit that point, that's the time that you can't do it by yourself anymore because you're gonna burn yourself out. We suggest maybe trying to think 2 to 3 steps ahead of that. Or like, this is kind of interfering with how I want to live my life. Once you kind of hit that threshold, that's the best time to call us because we can help you set up a plan and not only to take care of your properties, but to keep you moving in the right track so that you can build that portfolio for yourself.
Yeah, I think the answer to this is really simple. Right? One of the founders of KeyRenter says toilets and troubles. I think maybe in a different order that, but tenants, troubles, and toilets. Right? Like that's the answer, right? The answer is you're at a barbecue and your phone's ringing because your tenant needs you, or you're on vacation with your kids and you're about to get on the speedboat around the island and you can't get on it and you let your wife and kids go because you're dealing with things that are happening with your rental property, right? You hear like this rental, I can't get this place rented, right? This I need to evict someone. Like there's so many things it could be. It could be just one. It could be a combination of them all. But for me, I'm going to keep going back to this. It's the mindset. You're running it like a hobby or as your fun thing to do, right? You're not running it as a business. Get that mindset into the business mindset, and then you'll find why we're going to be good.
And just to make one more point is really wealthy people have other people manage their money for them because they're professionals and it's their job. So, we're not all, I don't think anyone here is ultra wealthy like that, but, property managers help facilitate that for you. It's our full-time job. This is our business. We're going to do everything in our power to make this run. So, you can just sit back and watch the number go up.
That's a great point. I never thought of it like that. So, see, you learn something new every day. We learn together. Where if the rich has wealth managers, why not have real estate managers too? And that turns into wealth. So that's a great point. This has
Yeah.
been phenomenal. So
Mm.
I don't have many more questions. You guys have any areas you want to address that want to get out there, or
Yeah, I'd like to address the realtors, right?
Yep.
You guys are the realtors, right? Like what are ways that you think that you see in your everyday market when you're working with investors or you're working with homeowners? Where do you see the opening for you to add value to your business and explain how we are that sort of connection to the next phase of your business? How do you guys introduce that?
So it's kind of an easy conversation, honestly, because I talk to people all the time and it's always, I don't know if I'm ready, I don't know if I'm ready to buy. And I always will advise, like, listen, especially if you're buying your first property, if you're young and you have the energy, get a duplex, get a triplex, get something that's going to offset your costs. But I immediately follow that up with being a landlord it has its pros and cons. But like in all seriousness, you guys handle the cons. You guys handle the hard parts because I've been there. I've been out with family, kids, get the call, my heat's broken. So now I have to drop what I'm doing, go buy a space heater. I've gotten the call, sewer line in the basement burst. What are you going to do about it? Don't know yet, but it's going to be something. So to be able to let people know that there is that peace of mind, that it is one less thing that they have to worry about, that it truly can be a passive source of income. That's where we would bring you guys in. Sometimes we do have the DIYers that don't mind it, that have no problem doing it themselves. There are others that have no idea where to start. They just want to be in it and they just want to be done. It's
Mm.
like, okay, perfect. Sounds like you guys could be a great fit. Let me give you Matt and Brett's number.
Yeah, just to add on to that, exactly. And so it's funny as I mature, as I going through getting older, I went from being involved with everything to actually handing off now everything. So I used to be that realtor that did everything, ran everywhere. It's not worth it now. I actually work full time doing something else and then doing that, being a dad, being a husband, being a brother. So now I'm like, it's much better to let the experts do it. So I'm not an expert, but I can tell you I'm pretty smart to say Brett and Matt can do it much better and much, much more efficient and money saving than what I would be involved.
Mm.
And it would pay off in the long run for you. And just like Lawrence says,
Mm.
at the swan effect, you'll sleep well at night having you guys having a property manager in there. So yeah, so that's a great question. Thanks, Matt.
Guys,
You guys have any
Hmm?
stories of yeah.
or any
Um,
particularly cool properties that
Yeah.
you had them?
Nothing like that, but yeah, I mean, just like even if people aren't necessarily ready to buy, but they are looking to kind of build with someone long term, tell them, feel free to reach out as well because we can do some market projections and we can work with you as well. I mean, I have someone here who he's probably not going to buy a house for another year or so, but I just set up maybe a quarterly call with him just to talk about what's his plan. Is he looking for a duplex? Is he looking for something to kind of maybe it's a little bit of a, house that hasn't been renovated since the 80s. Like, maybe you could find some good value there. Like we can talk investment strategy. We can do pretty much all of it. And that's I think in this market now, at least in Philly, you have to get a little bit more creative. It's not as easy to buy, just, rent ready properties, turnkey, however you want to call it. You got to get a little creative, and working with everyone that we work with, there's dozens of different ideas that I never even thought of before kind of coming in and really diving into this space and being interested. So if you are having a tough time out there, reach out to your real estate professional, attend some meetups, look for your local real estate, or sorry, your local realtor organizations, talk to them, and just, you know, get some ideas out there, and just, don't let the market intimidate you from making a good decision. Because when it's a tougher market out there, that's typically when people see the best long-term returns.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
kind of
just
my
add
last
one
point.
last thing. KeyRenter obviously is a franchise that Brad and I have bought into, and we're building in our areas, and we love it. And it's a very passionate kind of like business that we really all get into. But we also have uh, probably, I think it's about 176 other locations around the country right now, and everyone is like Brett and I, as passionate as this is and we were a network that helps each other grow and help each other inform each other, like with different rules and regulations. Like we're out there learning from each other every day. And if you're an investor as well, and you own property in New Jersey or Philadelphia or Florida or Texas, it doesn't matter where you are. There's going to be someone like Brett and I out there who's going to be able to help manage your portfolio that is equally as good as us. So I just want that sort of out there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you so much for bringing that up, Matt, because I can't believe we didn't even didn't even mention it. But I know sometimes people are in a position where, unfortunately, Great Aunt D passes away in Florida. But Great Aunt D had a really killer condo, and it would make a really great investment property. But I'm not in Florida, so having a property manager on your side can help you maintain those assets and keep those assets. So if that opportunity does come up, it is possible to keep the property. It's just like Brett was saying, like it's creative solutions, and that's what we're here for. That's what literally what we what we do for a
People,
living. I say it all the time, but it's what we do. We'll figure it out.
yeah.
We'll help you figure it out.
Yeah, people relocate all the time, right? For work, for life, for whatever they want. It doesn't mean you have to sell that property. There's people there all over the country like us that can look after these properties. So
Yeah, and that's also another point is, anytime you sell the property, Uncle Sam gets a nice fat cut as well. And I like to keep my money in my pocket and not in other people's pockets. So just think
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. It's always my favorite argument when it comes to renting versus buying. It's like, listen, you're either paying your landlord's equity or you're paying into your own. So it's whose pocket is it going into? That's up to you.
Yeah. All right.
So, all right, folks. So that's it for another great episode of Ready for Real Estate Podcast. We had a good time with our friends Brett and Matt from KeyRenter Property Management, and we learned a lot today about the right tenant, the wrong tenant, and how to really use property management for your advantage, and that's what they're for. So they're not there for them; they're there for you. And so I hope you liked listening today. Make sure to reach out to Brett or Matt with any questions about your property management needs. Brett's in Philly and Matt's in Bergen County, New Jersey. So again, this is Matt with Lauren, and this is Ready for Real Estate. Have a great night. Be ready, folks. See you next time. Yep.
Thanks so much for listening. If you're looking for the links we mentioned today or want to connect with us on social media, everything you need is right there in the show notes. Join our community on Beehive for more market insights. And if you have a topic you want us to cover, reach out. We're always listening. If you need support on your next real estate deal, let us know. Matt Grace is a licensed realtor with Keller Williams in Pennsylvania, and Lauren is a licensed realtor with eXp Realty in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Remember, the market is always moving. When opportunity knocks, will you be ready? We'll see you in the next one.